Hello, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving, and welcome to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Michael,
And I'm Molly.
and we are here today to talk episode 10 of Survivor 49, as well as Married at First Sight, season 19. This is our very first time covering Married at First Sight on the show, and I'm very excited to talk about what I thought was a very good season.
Yes, I know. It was actually my very first season of watching Married at First Sight, which I feel like is surprising given all the other shows that I love with reality TV and love related type shows. So I'm very excited to talk about it today. And also, it was based in Austin, my city. So it made it more exciting.
Yeah, that was very fun. It's always fun to see like an Austin or Houston show where you can pause the little transition scenes and see all the backgrounds and things like, oh, I've been there. Oh, I know where that is. So that's always fun. But yes, I have watched Married at First Sight since the very beginning. I have season one on DVD, in fact, and I have loved this show for many, many years, over a decade now. But I'm very excited to get to really talk about it in depth for the first time on here.
Yeah, and what was fun about seeing, like, all the city shots of Austin, for me, I was like, "Oh, I know this was filmed, like, 2 years ago or so because the buildings were different, like, the
Oh,
way the construction is now, like, there's so many buildings, or there was one that's, like, torn down now that wasn't torn down yet when it was being filmed,
Oh,
so
that's funny. Yeah, the
that was
season was
funny.
filmed in about 1978,
Yeah,
so you will see some differences.
exactly.
But before we get into all that, let's talk some Survivor. So, after the last tribal council, Christina and Steven are on the bottom, having been left out of the Alex vote. The others, not knowing about Christina's idol, of course, debate who to target next. They do land on Steven, as they consider him to be a more dangerous player here. So, with the knowledge that they have, of course, not knowing about Christina's idol, do you agree that Steven is the best target?
I don't know. I mean, I guess he is good at the challenges and immunity challenges, and that obviously they want to be able to win over him. So he would be a target for that. But I think in terms of relationships, I feel like Christina also has a lot of good relationships with people, and obviously having the idol is an advantage in her pocket. So I think in this moment, like with what we know, I think it would have been more likely for them to want to go after Christina than to Steven.
Yeah, I wonder how much of this, because we see, we'll get into just a little bit. Christina was having a very hard day, missing her family. I wonder how much of that played into it, where they're like, Christina's head isn't in this game, anyways. Like, Steven is the one who's thinking more strategically, who's probably more positioned to really play hard versus Christina, who maybe they see to be a little bit checked out. I don't know. I think in that sense I could understand their decision. I think that Steven probably is a bigger immunity threat. Is a, maybe a bit. I think that they're both good social players. Actually,
Yeah.
like I really think Christina is, of course, like super likable, but I think that Steven also we've seen has a lot of allies and it has been very very good socially as well. So I kind of do think that with comparing the two of them with the knowledge they have, I do think that I probably agree Steven is the best target.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. I feel like we just with them being also original Hina, it's like they kind of lump together.
Yeah, exactly. Because we didn't see a whole lot of Hina in the pre-merge, so we're
Yeah.
really getting to know these Hina members a lot better these last few weeks than we did for the first 4 or 5 weeks in total. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that I absolutely can see why they made that choice in that moment. But the next morning, Sage fills Jawan in on some information that we have been tracking this for the last few weeks of who's going to find out about Christina's idol? How, what is this information going to be kept secret at all? Spoiler alert, no, it is not, because Sage just found out about this last week and now she has already told Joanne about it. So this really raises a lot of alarm bells for Joanne because he realizes that he can't fully trust Steven, since Steven only told Sage about this information but didn't tell him. Now, this was interesting to me because Joanne just blindsided Steven at the last tribal. He did not fill Steven in on this vote. So the fact that he would kind of expect Steven to tell him this information, but he didn't tell Steven, it feels to me like, maybe he's expecting more out of him than he was willing to give himself to that relationship.
Yeah, I agree. It did feel like at that moment, like obviously Jawan knowing that Steven is withholding information from him, like isn't gonna sit right. But it is a game of survivor also that like, people don't always know who you're gonna trust in every moment. Like it can change every day. And that's what we're seeing in this game. So I think that obviously with Sage telling Jawan that was good on their relationship and solidifying their trust, but then obviously then shows that he can't trust Steven.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's right not to trust Steven. I just don't think that he should have expected Steven. Like, I don't think it should be a surprise because it's like, okay, you clearly didn't feel close enough to Steven to fill him in on that plan and let him know about the vote last week with Alex. So why would he feel comfortable enough to tell you this piece of information? It's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But he does talk with Steven and he, starts to kind of prod him to give him that information and be like, "Oh, I think maybe I'm nervous about Christina that she might have an idol or something." And Steven's like, "Oh, I don't think so. Like, I'll check, make sure." But he's not budging. So then Jawan really does know, okay, he's not willing to tell me that was a test and he failed. So I always think that's a great plan. When you know a piece of information and you know that somebody else knows but hasn't told you, really try have a conversation with that person and see if they'll budge, see if they'll tell you because that says a lot. And I think that that was smart of Jawan to do that because now he knows, okay, this wasn't something that Steven just didn't get a chance to tell me yet or, just didn't come up organically. This is a flat out no, I do not want you to know this information.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. That moment was funny with Jawan just like obviously knowing the information and not hearing it back from Steven. And then now obviously they're not gonna work together moving forward. It made it clear from that standpoint of just having that more solidified there of not trusting each other, especially with your what you're saying about the previous vote, not informing Steven about it either. So I think that also just shows that they're not really working together, even if it kind of portrays that they wanted to.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned it a little earlier, but Christina is having a hard day today, and she's missing her family, specifically her mom, who passed away 3 years ago. And very sad, but I do love these human moments in the show. And I think that it really does make you connect with these people a lot more, especially these these players who we didn't get to know a lot in the pre-merge because we were seeing so much Kelly that we really are getting to know some of these people like I said for the first time these last 3 4 5 weeks. And so getting this a moment like this with Christina was very sad, but I did appreciate that they aired it, that this wasn't something that maybe in a 44-minute episode instead of an hour-long episode like we get now without commercials, that these moments might be something that are cut, and I appreciated that we saw this.
Yeah, I agree. It was a very emotional moment for Christina there, but it was nice how Jeff handled that and everyone seemed very understanding as well and hearing her talking about her mom. So that was nice to see.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, so before they get to the reward challenge, though, she does confide in Steven
Yeah.
about this,
Mhm.
and we also get to hear her talk with him about it, and then they get to the reward challenge, and Jeff brings it up, and then Christina has a very emotional moment there where she starts crying in front of everybody, and everyone gets a little emotional. Now with this the reward challenge part of it, I thought maybe a little much, like a little too much of a focus on this. Like I think the moment with Stephen was great. Maybe a very short moment of seeing it, obviously because it happened at the reward challenge. So I'm glad they didn't completely cut it, but I do think that maybe we could have moved on just a little bit quicker from that because there was a lot to get to this episode, and I think putting so much of a focus on this, I feel like, is a little bit much.
Yeah, because we could have had some more strategic information
Right.
that we were missing out on that that could have been part of the episode. But yeah, I think that obviously, like with the moment with Steven made sense, but maybe they didn't have the whole moment with the reward.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. One or the other is enough, I think, to get the point across of what was happening there. But
Mhm.
But Blue Soph, Yellow Sophie, Sage, and Steven, all the S's, won an afternoon at the sanctuary where good things happen as their reward. Now, while they're there, Sage hatches a plan to get out Savannah tonight. She starts to talk to Yellow Sophie about this, and Yellow Sophie says she's on board, but of course we know she's continuing to play the middle here. She thinks so Sage thinks that she has 5 votes locked down. So basically, everybody except the three that you would expect: Blue Soph, Savannah, and Rizzo. But Yellow Sophie kind of makes it appear that she's thinking about this. Do you think that she is really undecided here, or do you think that she had kind of made up her mind? And which way do you think is smartest for her to go? I guess that's a lot of questions.
Yeah, I know. I feel like Sophie's in an interesting position here because, like, there are obviously so many options she could go with, but I think that she should stay with this group. I don't think that Savannah, Sophie, and Rizzo will really trust her moving forward as much as like Sophie can trust in Steven and original Hina people. So I think that she should stick with not doing the plan for Steven, but going for Savannah.
Okay, that's interesting. I think I disagree
Okay.
because I feel like she has proven to be very valuable in terms of information, giving information to Blue
Yeah.
Soph, Savannah, and Rizzo. And I think that even though I think yeah, she's probably fourth in that group, but I also think that she's fifth with the other group. Like I think at least with these four, with I guess she makes it four. She knows that does she know they have an extra vote at this point? I can't remember.
I
I think
don't
she
think
finds
so.
out later in the episode.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
But
it's later.
either way, I think that okay, so she knows that she could have the ability to make it a tie, I guess, at the
Yeah.
very least. And I think that I just think that she is more valued over in that group, even though she might be fourth. But really, all you need to be is fourth in the new era because there's no voting at four. So they can't get
Mhm.
her out. If they make it to Final Four together, they can't vote her out at that point. She still has fire making as a possibility at the very least.
Yeah.
And I think that they know that she has the ability to give them information that they can't get on their own. And I don't know that the other side values her in that same way because I don't think they
Mhm.
see her as being as tied to that group as she is. Whereas I think that the Savannah Rizzo Soph group know that Yellow Sophie's getting that information that she can then send to them that is important so they know where to vote.
Yeah. No, that does make a lot of sense. I think I was just getting confused in my head because there's so many S's and groups and people, but I think, yeah, with that plan, like, obviously, like, her knowing that she could be 4 in that group, like, that makes sense. But I don't know, there's always people moving around and people trying
Yeah.
to backstab each other, so it's like, maybe Sophie could build up that trust again with her original Hina people, but I don't know if they'll ever see her the same way.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Like it's such a fast-paced game, New Era Survivor, that it's like everything's constantly changing. It's like something can seem like a brilliant move in the moment. I mean, look at how we thought just a few weeks ago that Alex was in such a better position than Blue Soph when Nate went home. He was in
Yeah.
the majority of that vote, and we were like, well, I guess Blue Soph chose wrong, with the team that she chose to go with, and Alex put himself in the majority. And now look at it. Alex is out. Blue Soph is still here and in a very powerful position. So it's you just never know.
Mhm.
I always think back to I think it was Survivor Cambodia, Second Chances, where instead of alliances, they talked about voting blocks that season, where it's like this isn't an alliance. This isn't something that's going to last the whole season. It's just we need to get the numbers for this specific vote because we all have a common interest this week. Next week, we might not have a common interest and we'll all work with different people. But it's just you need a voting block every week. And I feel like
Mhm.
that's very true in New Era Survivor, even more so, where it's like things are so fast, quickly changing that it's almost futile to try to like get an actual alliance together at this point. It's just like, let me just make sure I have enough votes to get past this week.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Well, then we get to the immunity challenge, but before we do, Jeff gives the players an offer of enough rice that they can last the rest of the time they are there, in exchange for three people sitting out of this challenge. Now, this is something that we've seen many times before in the new era, and nobody this time agreed to sit out. Sometimes we get different outcomes here, but this time no one took it. They tried to bargain with him a little bit, but he kind of stopped the bargaining, and they just went about competing in this challenge. So, first question, do you think that you would be willing to sit out of the immunity if, let's say, there were two other people who were, and you were going to be the deciding factor? Would you do it?
I think, I mean, short answer is I don't know. But if I had to say yes or no, I would say most likely no, just because I think that I'd want to have a fair shot in getting the immunity in this, and especially in this challenge. I think I could have, like, like it seemed like more equal in terms of there was a puzzle at the end, so like that's kind of equalizer in some ways in terms of not just the physical side of it. So I think I would have just wanted to try for the immunity and keep myself safe. But if like if there were two and like I was the last person to have to choose and no one else was going to, like I think I could possibly want to sit out for the rice. But it was interesting to see how none of them were trying to do that. Like literally like they were just like, all right, no, we're just wanting immunity. So that was interesting, but I feel like there would have been more like like feeling like maybe in their heads they were thinking maybe we should sit out, but no one actually did.
I think the problem is that they did this too late in the season. There's only a
Oh,
week
yeah,
left, literally a
that's
week. I just think that at this point, it's easy enough for the players to be like, okay, we're getting there. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. Like
mhm,
we can get by without this. And I think that if they did this like at the merge vote, like they merge and they say, okay, in addition to this feast, I'm going to give you enough rice to last you the entire rest of the time you're here. Because at that point, there's still closer to 2 weeks left. And
yeah,
that's a long time. And
mhm,
so if they say, like, you won't have to worry about food the rest of the time you were here on Survivor. And in exchange for that, maybe, I don't know, maybe four or five people have to sit out because there's more numbers at that point. And I think that there would be a lot more people willing to potentially do that. And I can't remember. I think it was earlier though in Survivor 47 where they all gave up their shots in the dark in exchange for that. And they wanted that rice at that
yeah.
point, and they weren't necessarily willing to sit out, so they made a deal with Jeff for that. But I think that here they just weren't that incentivized to give up too much to be willing to do that because it's like there's not that much time left, really.
Yeah, that's for sure. Because it really isn't that much time comparatively, so they're just like, "Nope, we don't care anymore."
Yeah. Well, Yellow Sophie ends up winning the immunity challenge here, and this leaves Savannah vulnerable for the first time in a couple of weeks. And she clearly was a big target before the challenge. So Sage is thrilled, and she's like, "All right, we got our chance. Let's do it." But Yellow Sophie warns Savannah that Sage and Joanna are flipping on them. So this takes a turn now because now they're able to use Yellow Sophie as their advantage in giving them
Mhm.
this information, and she feels that she needs Savannah in the game, Yellow Sophie, as a shield for her, and proves her loyalty to Rizzo and Savannah by telling them also about Christina's idol, which Sage had told her about earlier in the day. So this again, Yellow Sophie is giving all the information. She's picked a side here, and she's giving them all the information so that they know they can trust her. That she's not playing both sides. She is firmly with them, and I think this was a really smart move.
Yeah, I agree. I think with this, like obviously, with now Sophie also having the immunity, she knows she's safe and and can actually like I feel like in that position, like you have more abilities to kind of like flip in a way, not flip, but like give more information, and you won't be seen as much of like, oh, you we should go after her now because now she's helping us.
Yeah, I just think that she is doing a really, really good job of playing both sides just enough to where they both trust her to give the information, but she has picked a side. Like she is very firmly right now team Rizzo and Savannah and Soph. And so she doesn't feel to them like she's playing in the middle. So they firmly trust her. And look, she won immunity this week. It's not like this was potentially going to turn on her for playing in the middle, but this week, but I think it is smart. It's like, okay, this is the week. This is the last week that I really need to play the middle because then we're going to be at 7 and one side is going to firmly have the numbers. So it's like she just needs to be able to, get past this week enough to where she can have make sure that her side has all the information so that they make the right move and don't mess up to where someone else someone on their side is vulnerable, gets all the votes and is out. So I think she's done a very good job of making sure that doesn't happen.
Yes, for sure.
Well, Christina, without knowing all this is happening, decides that she is going to use her idol on Steven. And because they think that Steven is the one who they're going to go for, which was the original plan. They were correct in that. And that she's going to put one vote on Rizzo just in case Rizzo uses his idol for Savannah and then he's vulnerable. And that one vote with the rest going on Steven, if Savannah's also then safe with an idol, Rizzo's the one with the one vote, and that's enough to get him out. So, look, with the information that she has, I think that this is smart. I know that people online were saying that this maybe wasn't the right move because it's Steven wouldn't have the numbers, or no, sorry, not Steven. That if they were to put all the numbers on Savannah and one vote on Rizzo, if the other side just all got together and put all their votes on Christina, for example, then Christina would have more votes than Savannah, and so then she would have gone home. And if they would all put them on Savannah and none on Rizzo, it would at least be a tie. So she basically negated the possibility that they could tie it in the event that her suspicions were wrong and Rizzo doesn't use his idol in Savannah.
Yeah. No, all this stuff about this idol is all confusing. Not confusing, but it's like
It
there's
is
so many
confusing.
possibilities with
Yeah.
what can happen in this scenario if Christina and Rizzo decide to play their idols and if they're playing them on other people, it just adds to it. So I mean it's not wrong for her to think of all these possibilities, but just not likely that it's gonna go in her way.
And it's probably more confusing because I'm really bad at explaining it. So that's probably not helping either, but it does make sense. Like I understand what people are saying online about that for
Yeah.
sure. I can also understand Christina's thinking about it because it's like in her mind, it's like when you're out on the island, I'm sure you were just thinking of every possible scenario. And when you convince yourself that one of those scenarios is what's going to happen, you want to make sure that what you do protects yourself so that can't happen. What your worst fear can't happen. But I do think that probably the her thought was the less likely scenario. Like I think that it
Yeah.
is probably smarter for them. It would have been smarter for them to just put all of their votes on Savannah and hope that Rizzo doesn't use his idol on her. I think that it probably or put all of them on Rizzo and hope that he does use it on Savannah. Like I think that putting all their votes one way, regardless of which way it is, I think probably would have been the smarter move.
Yeah, agreed.
But Savannah then starts to think, and she thinks that okay, since they now know that Christina has an idol, maybe they would use it to save Steven. And instead, now of voting Steven out, maybe they should switch the plan. And so she comes up with a plan that they will use Savannah's extra vote and switch to voting out one of the flip floppers, who they consider to be Jawan and Sage. And Savannah wants Sage to go, but Yellow Sophie, who she's talking to about this plan, prefers Jawan to go.
Mhm.
So which do you think they should have gone with between those two?
I think I feel like in terms of Savannah's gameplay, she obviously would make more sense for her to get out Sage just because Sage is very gung ho on getting Savannah out. So if Sage is out, then that plan, I mean, it's probably still going to be talked about, but like not as like let's get Savannah out kind of energy. So I think it would make more sense to go for Sage here, but Joanne also has very strategic thinking and has been involved in a lot of plans and everything like that. That I think he's also a good option. So I think both of them would be, but in terms of for Savannah particularly, it does make sense for her to want to go for Sage. But yeah, Yellow Sophie just feels closer to Sage, so then she wants Joanne out.
Yeah, I see both sides of it. I think that Sage is definitely more gung ho on we have to get Savannah out. Like I think that she is definitely Jawan is probably more flippable. Like he's more potentially willing to come back and work with them if they give him the right speech
Mhm.
about why Sage had to go, blah blah blah. Like I think that Jawan is probably more willing to keep kind of flipping back and forth, but I think that Sage is less probably less good socially, just in terms of, like, I think that I don't know that she has as close relationships, like, I think that she's probably going to, like, just be less likely to kind of fall back in, and under the radar. And I think that Sage also is probably closer to Sophie. And so Sophie is able to get more information out of Sage than she is directly from Jawan. So that's, I think, where Sophie probably feels like she would rather Jawan go. And now, after this vote, I don't know that Sage is going to necessarily still feel as close to Sophie. So it's very possible that this was a mistake if that was her reasoning, and that Sage is going to feel very betrayed by Sophie. But as of right now, where their relationships stand, I do think that Sophie seems more close, a lot more close to Sage, and I understand why she would prefer Joanna.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, then we get to tribal council and things go a little haywire. So Christina uses her idol on Steven, like she talked about. And then we get a very fun moment where Rizzo pretends to use his idol on Savannah. So he gives an idol to Jeff. But then Jeff says, nope, this is not a hidden immunity idol. It was a fake idol. And I thought this was very interesting because we don't know yet why exactly Rizzo decided to make this move. It could be because he wanted to gauge everybody's reactions. And if they were to react a certain way, then he would say, oh, that was, sorry, let me use this real idol. And whether it's using it on himself or Savannah. But there could also be a situation where this was just to rile everyone up, to have a moment, no particular strategic reason behind it. It could also potentially be that he wants everybody to think that he never had an idol in the first place and that all of this was just a scheme, and it was a fake idol, and there was always been another one out there, or it went home. The real one went home with Nate or somebody else early on. Who knows? I have no idea why he decided to do it, but do you have any guesses?
When I was watching it, I was just like, "What? Like, this is crazy that it's just a fake idol. It doesn't even matter in this vote either that it wasn't really used." But I feel like maybe it was just for like the viewers, like for TV, like the added like dramatics of it. Like, I don't know. It didn't really seem like there was that much strategy related to it. It was more just like to gauge the reactions from people, maybe. But then also like it was he didn't end up using his other idols, so I mean, I don't know, but I think it's interesting. I want to hear more about why he did it because at this point, like, I don't fully understand it.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that this was. I think that you're right. I think it was to gauge the reactions. I think it's very similar to Rachel Lamont, which she did in
Mhm.
Survivor 47, where she played her shot in the dark as a way to gauge everybody's reactions, or fake played her shot in the dark, I
Yeah.
believe. And that way, it made everyone think she was about to pull out an idol, and she was able to gauge the reactions in the room. And I think that that's probably similar to what happened here. I just think that is the it makes the most sense because I think it's going to be really hard to convince everybody that you never had a real idol. I don't know, because Sage was there when he got the Beware advantage, so he
Yeah.
can't fully pretend like he never had the beware advantage. Now maybe he could say, like I mentioned, that it, Nate had the idol and it went home with him, or that I don't know, that somehow he never found the idol at all. He got the beware advantage but never found the idol. I don't know. It would be, I think, a hard sell to do that though. So I think it
Yeah.
had to just be gauge the reactions. He didn't see anything too concerning, felt it was safe to not use it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't think about how maybe thinking that it could have gone home with someone else because I feel like Rizzo's not that quiet about a lot of things that like he would probably have said something like if that actually had happened and like he would have talked about it at camp. And so I don't know if people would believe that if you tried to pull that out. But yeah, it's interesting. I feel like everyone does know it's real at this point, but maybe because they're all sleep deprived or food like they're not nourished enough that maybe they could think that at this point in the game, but at least as viewers I think it's pretty obvious that they should know.
Yeah, the only person who 100% could have actually like factually known because he saw it with his own two eyes that Rizzo had a real idol was Jawan. But Jawan went home. And so Sage knew that he had the beware advantage, but Sage that next episode they swapped. And so Sage was on a different tribe once Rizzo actually found the idol.
Yeah.
So she did not was not there physically when that happened. So there is a story that could be told to Sage and to everyone else that he never actually had it. I think personally, what could have been a better move, more believable, is that Rizzo could have acted really upset when the idol was announced to be fake. And he could have said, "Oh my God, someone fooled me. Like somebody planted a fake idol and fooled me and I thought I had a real one."
Mm.
But again, Sage saw him get the word advantage. So I don't know. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe that's not believable. Or maybe I have no idea. I don't know.
Just
I'm
for
sure we'll find
TV
it out like
basically.
first thing in the episode. I'm sure we will get a flashback. He will explain everything. I I guess I'm going back now to I think that it has to be that he was just gauging their reactions.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think there's I just don't see how people could think it's fake at this point.
I think it's a hard sell. Yeah, I think it's a really hard sell. So I don't think that I don't think that's the plan. The more I think about it, the more I talk it through, I think that's too hard to sell that with the amount of knowledge that the other people have on the island. I don't think he can sell that. So I think that it has to be just gauging the reactions, and I still think that's a very smart move.
Yeah. No, I think so too. I think this definitely it was interesting to see it happening and then like to be seeing that it was fake was like, okay, well, this is interesting here. But I think that long term, like or not long, there's not that much left in the game. But I think that with what's left in the game, like he still has his real idol with him. So obviously like he's doing well in terms of keeping it safe and
Mhm.
not being used. So we'll see how it goes for him next week.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm glad we didn't know that that was the plan beforehand because I love that we also were like, "Wait, what?" Like, I thought that was a very fun that we were also like in it with everybody else and not knowing that that was going to happen. So I thought that was very fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, in the end, it's a 5 to 3 to 1 vote with Jawan going home. There was another very fun moment where Savannah turns to Jawan when it's a tied vote, and she's like, "Jawan, did you do this?" Like making her think like, "Oh my gosh, she's going home." That she thinks she's going home, and he's like nodding, very proud of himself, like, "Yeah, sorry, it was me." And then all the next votes are Jawan, and then she's the tables turn and she's the one smiling looking at him. So I thought that was a very fun moment from Savannah.
Yeah, I
Little
like
mean,
that.
but fun.
I I know I was seeing TikToks about it. Kelly Wentworth made one of her saying that she loved that moment of
Yeah.
her just, like, adding in some, like, theatrics there and,
Mhm.
like, the drama of it, of knowing what was about to happen, but just, like, wanting to be like, "Oh, I had no idea."
Oh, another fun Savannah moment that I forgot to bring up earlier was when she was with Christina and they were talking game, and then just like out of nowhere, Savannah's like, "So who are you voting for, Christina?" And Christina's like, "Whoa!" She's like, "I don't like that. I need to take a step back. Like, give me a moment." I thought that was okay. Like, I get that that's abrupt, but I thought it was a little bit of a weird moment from Christina, where I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, it's Survivor. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Do people not just ask people who they're voting for? Like, I kind of thought that was a normal question.
Yeah, well, probably for people you're working with, but not people that you're, like, not working I don't
Yeah,
know.
I guess, like, I just feel like on Big Brother, even people that you're not working with, I feel like on the feeds, like, I see people ask, like, "So who are you thinking?" But I guess that's maybe a little different because it's, like, between one of 2 people, so
Mhm.
maybe that's a little bit different than survive. I don't know. But I don't know, I didn't think that much of it until Christina's reaction was so huge that I guess I was like, "Oh, yeah, that was a little direct."
Yeah.
But it seemed a little bit of an overreaction as well.
Yeah, I agree, but I love Savannah probing at that because that
Yeah.
was funny.
Yeah. I feel like we are, uh, and I won't spoil, I feel like we are very much starting to now understand why the people who were picked for Survivor 50 from this cast were picked.
Yep, I agree. This episode definitely showcased that who the people are, it seems deserving now.
Yes. All right. Well, unless you have anything else, Molly, I think that's it for Survivor 49 this week.
Yeah.
So let's start to get into some Married at First Sight.
Yes, let's do it. So, as I mentioned, this was my first time watching Married at First Sight, and I loved it. I felt like it includes all the things I want to see in reality TV. And I feel like overall, like obviously you have more experience in watching all the seasons, but I liked that they were all just like an hour episode, and it seemed pretty fast paced, which was nice that it wasn't dragged on too long. And what I'd heard was like that previous seasons had too much of like the before the weddings, before like in the seasons previous. So like in this one, like you get the weddings like right away, which I liked. And then from there, you get to the honeymoons and then the living together and then decision day and all of that. So I like the overall organization of it.
Yeah, I thought this was a great season. It definitely was very different in a lot of ways than the Lifetime era, where, like you said, there was a lot more before the weddings. They would go on bachelor and bachelorette parties. They would have a whole scene of telling their parents and their family, like, "I'm getting married at first sight," and then the parents were like, "Oh my god, why would you do that?" Like, it's the same every single year. Like, very fun the first maybe 2 or 3 seasons that they did that, but then it was like, okay, this is season 18 of the show. We're still doing this, getting the exact same reactions from the family, the same, like, everything. So I love that they cut all that out. Let's just get to the point, get to the weddings. That's what everyone wants to see. It's like how on Love is Blind, like, we still get so many episodes in the pods. And I think that, this past season was a lot better because they shortened that just a bit from what it had been the year or two before that. And so I love that here they kind of did the same thing. Let's just cut all the fluff. And later on too, there used to be a lot more, meetings with the experts and just like, get-togethers with all the couples and all this stuff. Like, that are fun, but it was just like it was a lot very repetitive, a lot of like it felt like you were getting like every day of their journey, and it's like not every day was exciting. So, we hit the high points now, and I love that. And I think, like, yes, maybe I'm not quite as invested or attached to the couples as maybe you are when you watch them week by week for, 5 months, but I think it was fine. It was plenty. I think it was great, a lot better than it was before.
Yeah, no, I can see that, and I feel like when they're just talking to each other and there's not really, like, drama there, like, those parts can get boring, so I'm glad that they they cut out a lot of that fluff of it all, and kept it more to the drama, which we want to see.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt that I think that these were great couples too.
Yeah.
Like I think that each of the couples I felt like had a chance to work. It wasn't like, last season for example, there was this one couple that immediately like at the weddings you could tell this is never going to work. Like they just don't like each other, they're not into each other. And then one of those members of that couple had an affair with one of the members of the one of the other couples. So, there was plenty of drama that came out of that, but it was like you very well knew that like both of those couples really like were never going to work. And so with this, it felt like this season, all of these couples I felt like had a pretty good foundation at least, where I'm like, okay, yes, they're going through things. Probably they're not going to end up working out in the end, but like at least there's a chance. At least I understood why they were each coupled up together and
Yeah.
felt like this could work.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there were obviously ups and downs throughout each of their relationships, but it did seem like at the end of the day that like they wanted to all work through it, which was good to see that. So speaking of those couples, shall we get into each of these and talk about just their journeys throughout and then their updates from the reunion?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, let's start with Jalen and Josh. So they were the first couple we got to see get married, and I liked them together initially. Like I felt like they had very strong chemistry in the beginning, and throughout, like they seemed to be like pretty strong in the beginning parts of it, especially in their honeymoon. Like didn't seem like they even had any hiccups during that, which was good. But obviously, as we get deeper into the relationship, they were having issues because Josh really wasn't totally being truthful with Jalen about how he still followed his ex on social media. And she had asked him if he did, and he said yes. And that wasn't great for Jalen to hear. And also the Burning Man of it all. But before we get into that, what were your thoughts on them as a couple?
Yeah, I for most of the season was like, there's no way this couple doesn't work out. Like they just seemed so perfect for each other, like from the start until I think the entire first two drops of episodes, which are like 8 episodes total. It was like they barely had a fight. Like
Mhm.
they were so in sync, so perfect. I was like, they have to still be married today. Like there's no way they're not. And then, of course, in the last batch of episodes, I believe it was, maybe it was the second batch, I can't remember anymore. But they started to have some disagreements about Burning Man and his need to have that community of the festivals, and that she wasn't into that, and so there were some signs like, okay, maybe there would be some hostility there for him missing out on what he wants to be doing in life. That there was maybe, or not hostility, sorry, resentment is what I meant to say. There was going to be some resentment, from him, that she is making him not go to those types of events as often as he wants to. And so I started to feel like, okay, maybe this isn't quite as perfect of a match as I thought. But I will say, for most of the season, I still, even going into decision day, I fully thought they're absolutely staying together.
Yeah. No, the Burning Man conversations were so crazy because I was like, it's a festival. Like, how many days are they apart? Like, it's like not that crazy for
Yeah,
him to want to go and for her not to want to go.
right.
So it seemed like Josh was just putting like such a big emphasis on it that like didn't really need to be there for that. But then it made me think, okay, like it's probably just because of the TV show. Like they're just gonna talk about this and then they'll be fine. So like knowing that that wasn't really the case, like I mean, we also as we get to the reunion, like talk we hear that Jalen did, or we see Jalen did go to Burning Man. So that was also like okay, so like this wasn't that crazy to like bring up the whole season having this as the big fight, but they because they did stay together on decision day, but now are no longer together. So what were your thoughts on their decision day? Did it make sense to you that they were going to stay together?
Oh yeah, I was not surprised at all. I thought, okay, they're starting with this one clearly because it's the most obvious. And this was their, because there's a lot of seasons where there's like one very steady, solid couple. It's just like on Love Is Blind. Like, it's almost better, I think, when you do have that, because it's like, okay, this season isn't going to be a total waste. Like, at the very least, you're going to get four or five very toxic couples, and then you'll get one that's very steady and solid the entire season. And this to me was like that one very steady couple where I was like, if all the others, end up going to crap, like at least we're gonna have this one that is very solid, stay together.
Yeah, well, I was getting nervous that maybe Jalen was gonna say no just because of all the conversations of her
Mhm.
crying and, like, talking to Josh about how, like, all this stuff with how like, with Burning Man, but then other stuff, I feel like he wasn't really wanting to be part of her communities and all of that, that it made it seem like they had too many differences in those ways that I wasn't so sure. Like, I thought that they would say yes and stay together, but I didn't know 100% because we were seeing so many conversations that weren't as good as obviously than they were earlier in the season. So that made me question their relationship. And as we know now from the reunion, they did break up 3 months prior to this reunion being filmed while on vacation. And it was blindside. I feel like Jalen definitely was blindsided because he said that he didn't feel connected to her anymore and wanted to be with someone who was more adventurous and share the same passions. So, I mean, they were together for a year and a half or so. How
Yeah,
long?
over a year for sure. If it
Over
was
a
3 months
year.
before the reunion filmed only a couple weeks before it
Uh,
aired. So
Okay.
this was very like this month it filmed.
Okay.
So if they were broke up 3 months ago, then they were together certainly well over a year.
Yeah, so I feel bad for Jalen with that because I mean, she did go to Burning Man with him. So what is not adventurous about her? She jumped out of an airplane with him. Like, that's crazy.
It was just crazy to me because multiple times during the season, she was like, "Are you going to resent me? Like, are you going to want to wish you were with somebody who loved these things as much as you do?" And he just kept telling her, "No, I only want to be with you. Don't say that. That's not going to be a problem." And then, of course, it ends up being the problem. And,
Yeah.
and that's what's so frustrating about it is like, yes, Josh has every right to fall out of love with her and to want to not stay unhappy in a marriage where he's not feeling happy. But I think the problem is it's like, okay, you had every opportunity to tell Jalen that you potentially may feel this way down the line, like, and then get ahead of it, like go to couples therapy, like express this as soon as you're starting to feel this way. Like, don't let it all bottle up and then all of a sudden on vacation be like, nope, I'm completely done with this now. Like, there's no hope for us anymore. And this is the first time she's hearing about it. Like, it's like, didn't just wake up today and start feeling this way. You have been feeling this way for a while. So you should express it as you start to feel it so that you can then work together to see if it's something you can get past.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And like they were talking about that stuff in their conversations with the experts and it always seemed like they kind of came to a conclusion there. So it's crazy that Josh still was like, "Okay, never mind. I don't feel that way anymore." Obviously he wasn't being totally truthful with himself and his feelings and trying to overcome it, I guess, in certain ways, and then that was just dragging on Jalen longer than she needed to be.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like you were a year over married for probably about a year and a half because you got married on day one of this. So like in total, it's probably you've been married about a year and a half at this point. It's like she deserves more respect than just to like on vacation one day or however he says it, like while they're traveling, whatever. Like she deserves more than just you one day just giving up on the relationship and moving on. It's like, at least give it a fair chance
Mm.
and try to make it work. See what she can do. But it sounds like it's really nothing she can do. She's not going to suddenly become a different person and start loving and being super passionate about Burning Man, but you knew that from day one. So it's like that's what's frustrating. It's like nothing changed. You just started to care more about it than you did at the start, and you stopped lying to yourself,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, I know. But at least they know now before their kids involved.
Exactly, sure.
So that's a positive outcome of that.
Yes.
But we also got an update that Josh has gone on a couple dates since their breakup, and it was sent videos to Jalen that they were, or not from him, but Jalen was seeing videos of him with someone else that her friends told her not to tell her about it, but obviously they did show her. So I feel like that's obviously not great to see, especially right off a breakup from or a divorce from your ex-husband. But it did seem like they don't really have any like hatred towards each other. Like it seemed like everyone pretty much on this cast isn't like I will never ever speak to you again kind of thing. Like they all have pretty well wishes towards each other, which was nice to see. But yeah, so Josh is out there.
Yeah, no, I mean, this was so interesting to me where he's like, "Oh no, that's not lying to you. That's just not telling you what's happening," or something like that. I think that I can understand the thought process of being like, I don't want to upset her. This isn't going to make her feel any positive ways. This isn't going to help her in any way to see this. So I understand him wanting to, I guess, like maybe feel like he's protecting her. But I think telling her friends not to say something, I don't know, there's something a little bit like you think that they're gonna have more loyalty to you than to her, like, yeah, they're gonna, if she wants to know, if she says something like, you know, I want to know if you see something with him. I don't know. I guess it just kind of maybe depends on like maybe she doesn't want to know. Maybe that's just kind of opening an old wound. I don't know. But it seems like she does. But I could see a world where I might think that she doesn't, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. I feel like it's just better to like have like out of sight, out of mind kind of situation. But obviously they were in the same show and they're gonna be at the reunion. Like things are gonna come up that like it's not gonna be totally hidden from her regardless. They're also now public people and people will share things publicly that you can easily find online about their whereabouts for everyone on the cast. So I think with that, like it's fine. I get it's fine if he said don't tell her, like tell her friends to not tell her, but like that's not gonna actually happen. Like she's gonna know.
Right. I don't think there is a world probably where this picture is out there and she doesn't somehow end
Yeah.
up seeing it. So I think it's probably best to come from your friends, come out as soon as it's seen, and to just kind of get out of the way versus later on she stumbles upon it and doesn't have anyone to like talk about it with. Like it's better to come from somebody who then you can see it. You're with other people. Maybe this is a hard moment, but you have your friends to support as a support system while you're seeing this for the first time.
Yeah, for sure. Well, now I want to go to Jalen's cycling class in Austin and see her in real life.
Yeah.
I'll have to see when I can go to
Report
one.
back if you
Yeah.
do.
I will. But let's get into our next couple, Belinda and Chad. And Belinda is Jalen's mom. So this was our first time seeing a mother daughter duo, both getting married at first sight. So, what were your thoughts on that?
I thought it was really, really fun. I thought that was a very fun plot twist at the end of the first episode where we found out that information for the first time. And I loved it because I think that it brought a very unique, interesting dynamic when because we see these couples interact all together, get together, throughout the season. And I thought it's a very fun dynamic to have the two of them who obviously really care a lot about each other and are invested in who the other one is with and what's going on in their relationships, and it's somebody that you can lean on that understands what you're going through and knows you in a way that nobody else could. And it's like to have that connection of not only you are a mother daughter, like everything about each other, but then also to now be able to have this such a unique experience that so few people in the world have gone through, and that you can both lean on each other and understand completely as you're going through it, like, that's invaluable. So I thought that was a very cool for both of them, and I thought it was a very fun dynamic for the show.
Yeah, I agree. I liked seeing it, and it was fun to have, like, obviously, like, their conversations, they could FaceTime each other and, like, talk more, like, throughout the show when they were dealing with different, obviously, like, fights or just things that are happening with the show, and as we hear more about with Chad's issues with production and, like, all of that, like, Belinda can lean on Jalen and, like, she can get, like, the truth of, like, what's actually happening on their side, and it's not just like a he said she said, like they can talk to the source of it, like they're related, so so they can talk about that kind of stuff. But it was nice to see, and that they obviously were going through similar stuff together, so I like seeing it as well.
Yeah, and I mean, and we also, of course, see this with Rhonda and Pat as well, but they're a bit of an older couple than we're used to seeing on this show. We've never seen older couples until this season, and I thought that also having that is so interesting this season to see these couples that are in a different stage of life and have a lot more experience that they can, obviously impart onto the younger couples, and that it's just, it's unique and interesting, something that we haven't seen on the show and that we've never seen on like Love is Blind or anything like that really either. And I thought that that was very fun and added to the season a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I liked seeing these older couples, and it seemed like more wholesome in some ways. And like you could understand, like they obviously had been through a lot in their lives, having previous marriages and all of that, that they had some more knowledge to share with the younger ones. And also, just in terms of their own marriage, you could just tell like they were more seasoned in it in ways too. So that was fun to see, and not
Yeah,
just
and I
like
think
just
like
the young ones.
yeah. And I think, we're maybe not used to seeing couples that are so mature and that talk through their issues and don't just start screaming at each other. And look, I mean, Rhonda and Pat, I'm not saying they were functional, but I think that they at least talked through things and didn't get as just immediately angry as
Mhm.
probably younger couples who were going through similar situations would have been. So I thought
Yeah.
that was nice to see.
Yeah, for sure. And also I think it helped that like they all had like the experts to talk to, and like it was very much like we're focusing on the growth and the conversations and all of that that can happen in the marriage. So I think it was fun to see that side of it for the older couples as well. But yeah, so for their marriage, Belinda and Chad, I feel like never really seemed eye to eye the whole time. Like it seemed more surface level to me in the beginning, especially too with them like having fun dancing together, and like their lifestyles didn't really seem to be that aligned, but like they were trying to understand one another and get to know each other. But I really never saw this couple lasting. But it seemed
No.
like I wasn't sure, like entirely. Like obviously at decision day they also did say yes, that they were going to stay together, but I still didn't see it. I was like, what?
I never trusted Chad. He gives me such an ick, like such scammer vibes. I don't know. I just never felt he was genuine. I never got it. I never understood it. Even when they seemed to be doing great at their best on the show, I never believed he was in it for the like right reasons, we'll say for Bachelor talk. But I don't know. He gave me such like I don't know, like Real Housewives of Orange County scammer, like Brooks Ayers, John Jansen vibes. I don't know. That's the only way I can describe it.
That's
Is
funny.
like I I just never liked him, and I really didn't like the way that he spoke to her when like he was having these issues with filming the show. I
Yeah.
never liked the way that he talked to like producers when he was doing that. It just felt like he just got really angry and uh, I don't know. I didn't like any of that. It felt like it was his way or the highway. And I mean, he even said, I think in the reading something like, or maybe it was in that clip that they went back to like that barbecue that they had with the other couples, where he was like, "I'm the leader in my household," and I like it's just like that really does not rub me the right way. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I feel like we were getting so much about him having issues with the filming, which I was surprised they kept that all of that in terms. I'm sure that maybe there was more than we saw, but in terms of him like literally saying, "Hey, like stop interrupting me," or like I was getting there, and all the I don't want to be filmed, or like I don't live on your schedule. Like it was all like very entitled, a very like elitist mentality. Like he felt like he was entitled to having all the things done his way when like you're on a TV show. Like why did you come onto the show in the first place if you have these many issues with it? So I never liked Chad either.
Yeah, it felt like he wanted to be on the show, but he didn't wanna do anything required of being on the show.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't wanna be on production schedule, he didn't wanna talk about the things that production wants them to talk about in their relationships and do the activities and do all this stuff. He wanted to be, like, the subject of a documentary. Like, it seemed like, where, like, okay, you're being followed by cameras, but, like, you are doing completely on your own schedule, like, self-filming, basically. Like, you didn't want anything but, like, you're on a TV production. Like, they have certain things that they have to get you talking about, and they need to, be there at certain hours, and you have to be willing to film, like, certain amounts of time. It's like, this show has been around for over a decade. You could watch a season of the show and know what you're getting into. Like, this isn't a surprise. And it didn't seem like they were asking him to do anything outrageous when he was getting that angry. Like, they were just saying, like, okay, we can't be here all night at your dinner. Like, we need you to talk about these things that we need you to talk about so that we can get an update on your relationship. And we're not going to hear you talking about the weather and whatever sports that you want to talk about. Like, there's certain things. This is a show.
Yeah. No, for sure. It was weird to see that, and I felt bad for production for having to deal with the like criticism and all of that he was giving them. So, yeah, I'm surprised he was even at the reunion, but he was at the reunion and they discussed that they are no longer together and they broke up a few days after decision day, which not a shocker to me.
No, not to me either. I'm surprised it was. I'm honestly surprised it was a yes on decision day a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. I mean, they were in like a decent place, I guess. Like, maybe I could have seen Belinda potentially saying, like, I just don't see it, but it didn't seem like there was anything at that moment specifically that would have made her say no.
Yeah. No, I agree. But the dog was a big thing in the breakup because when they were going to move in together, then Belinda's dog, there was an incident with Chad, and then he started yelling at Belinda, saying the dog is untrained and aggressive. And then Belinda took her things out and left. So
As she
power to
should.
Belinda.
Like, look, I'm not the biggest dog person in the world, like, but he knows that she's had a dog. Like, this isn't a
Yeah.
surprise. What are you, like, all of a sudden? I don't know. I could see if he's, yelling and screaming about the dog, like, that's not who someone she wants to be with. I get it.
No. And then we also see a clip of a crawfish boil where all the couples went to the following day after their breakup, and then Jalen and Chad get into an argument. So
No, that was yet another incident. And then when they're talking about it, tells Kevin, the host, he's like, well, if you're going to ask me a question, shut up so I can answer it. I'm like, oh my God, you have
yeah,
anger issues and you need to go talk to someone about that.
yeah, for sure. But luckily now Belinda is dating someone else, so she's out of that toxic relationship and happy. I don't know who it is, but seems like they're happy.
I think it's more than likely that it's a better relationship than she had with him.
Yes, that's for sure. So now shall we get into Brittany and Will?
Yes, let's do it.
So for their relationship, I felt like it started off not super strong. Like I didn't really have super high hopes for them. It didn't seem like Will was like totally invested from the beginning, but then the more that they were together, I did see it, and, like, I could see them working through things and just understanding each other's conversations, and or just how they speak and all of that, and handle just in general, like, their livelihood and, like, what they do day to day, like, how they act is different from one another, so, like, they had to understand, like, their communication styles were different and that, and come together and kind of an agreement on that, and I felt like they did kinda get to that towards the end, and they were able to have fun and understand one another better, but I still, going into decision day, like, wasn't totally sure. I mean, obviously, we knew that Will said he was gonna say no, but at that moment, I was like, maybe they're gonna like fake it out and like it's gonna just say he's gonna say no, but then he actually says yes. So that was interesting that we like did see that happening. But I was surprised if Will was that into not into saying yes to her, like he wanted to say no, then and then change his mind. Like I did not see it lasting much longer past that, which we get that later in the reunion that happened, that they did break up. But what were your thoughts on them as a couple?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you like have to convince somebody to say yes on decision day, probably a pretty good bet that you're not maybe in a good place to actually be continuing to stay
Right.
married. Like, there's probably a reason why one of you is like going into it thinking it should be a no. But so I did not have high hopes for them after that. But yeah, I mean, overall, throughout the season, it seemed like they just never could quite communicate right. Like it seemed like she was really wanting more emotion out of him, more con- communication, just more support from him. And I think that he felt like he almost couldn't do anything right, I guess, by her, that he wasn't that he couldn't give her what she needed, maybe. I don't know. I think that he was just very kind of closed off at first, and maybe that was a filming thing. Maybe that was just nerves and not feeling like a connection to her. But then throughout the season, it did seem like he was opening up more, and it felt like she was really accepting that and she was taking it and appreciating it. But I don't think that she maybe communicated to him that she felt like he was getting better at that and appreciating it, and so he felt like she felt the same way that she did at the start, and I think that they just couldn't quite get on the same page. But yeah, I think on decision day, I was not shocked. I thought I didn't think he was going to tell her beforehand that he was like, "I'm a no," but I did think he was probably going to say no. And then I was actually very surprised when she was able to convince him to say yes, and I figured this probably isn't going to still be together at the reunion.
Yeah, I know. The conversations they were having, I was like, "Wait, like, is he gonna say yes now?" But I didn't think he should have, but he obviously did in the moment. Like, he was convinced by Brittany that they should still work together or work on things and stay married and try to make it work. But then in the reunion, we hear they're no longer together and they had broken up just a few days after decision day. So that's not surprising. And then we did see also a clip from the crawfish boil where Will explained that the last straw was Brittany saying that during an argument, she said that maybe I'm not the person for you. And then that was enough for him to want a divorce. So I think they just were never going to see eye to eye and have very different communication styles and better off to not be together.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the real reason why he was like that was the last straw, I that seems a little silly because I
Yeah.
think you say things when you're in arguments with your loved one. Like I think everybody said something that they really didn't mean just because they're like trying to be hurtful or like in that moment because they're upset, or you just you're not really thinking before you're speaking, you're just kind of like saying things that come to your head.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of those moments for her that, like, if you had asked her 20 minutes later, she probably would have said, like, oh, I didn't really mean that, I'm sorry. But it may be something that she didn't even remember she said, like, it's I think that for him to like hold that over her head is a little silly, but I honestly probably don't think it's the real reason why. I think that it's like it's a multitude of things, and that was just kind of the easiest thing to say of like, okay, this was the last straw.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think that was really the last straw, he just wanted to say that for the reunion. But then also we did hear about how Brittany had tried to reach out to Will a couple of times, but rude things were being said and that Will had blocked her number. And then later she wrote him a letter and dropped it off at his apartment, but he never read it.
Yeah, that was interesting. I didn't necessarily expect that she would still for so long be trying to get him back. And I thought that was interesting also that somebody at the building had said, "Yeah, we've seen her multiple times," but then we also learned that Jalen also lives at the same complex, so she was really just seeing Jalen instead. But I have seen a picture of the two of them together, a like recent picture, I guess maybe like after the reunion or something, and it seems like maybe they're trying to be friends
Mhm.
now. So that seems like a good thing that maybe this reunion brought them back in contact and maybe they were able to have whatever conversations they needed to have to at least like not get back together but be on a good page and that they can, be cordial moving forward. And if they run into each other, it won't be incredibly awkward. I think that's good for everyone involved since I'm sure they share a lot of the same friends being in this circle of people on the show. So, I think that if anything came out of it, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. It's nice to see that they don't have any ill wishes on each other at this point, so that's always nice. But next up, let's get into Rhonda and Pat. So here's our other older couple of the bunch, and I thought they were really fun and entertaining to watch. I didn't really think that they were gonna last, but I liked Rhonda and just how she's able to really clearly communicate how she's feeling and having maybe too much so, but talking about how she needs more from Pat and Pat's not listening to her. And the whole season, we get that like nonstop conversation. Like, I feel like that's all he talked about was how Rhonda didn't feel like she was being heard. And she got really emotional talking about it. Also, was like seeing at the dinner they had with a friend. And I feel like just all along, like they weren't really meant to be together, but they were just trying to stick it out and like understand each other, and each other's needs. But what did you think about them as a whole?
I'm kind of obsessed with Rhonda. Like, put Rhonda on the Traders immediately. I think she would be so entertaining on there.
Yeah.
I would not want to be in a relationship with Rhonda. I think that she is very how do I word this? I think that she's just like she's very blunt. She's
Hmm.
very like, in the moment if she feels like you're doing something, saying something, like she will bring it up right then and there. Like she's not going to hold it in and get have resentment and have it build up. Like she's going to say it right in the moment like, "Oh no, you just did it right there. You're talking about yourself again. You're changing the subject." Like, and I appreciate that. I just think sometimes it's like, okay, he's heard the same thing over and over and over and over again. He knows you feel this way. Now, allow him to, it's not going to be perfect. Allow him to try to get better at it and grow. And, I think that she's just going to bring it up every single time and then he feels like, okay, well then, I can't do anything right at this point. So I did feel for him a lot of this, but I appreciated and understand her as well, her point, because I think he did do that. Like he did bring it all around to himself quite a bit. Like we did see that. I'm not saying that he didn't do that, but I think that she was maybe a little bit hard on him, like most of the time we saw.
Yeah, I think I agree with that as well. And then going into the decision day, even there, she's really blunt with him because at while they're sitting next to each other on the couch, he has his legs crossed and hands in his lap, and she's like, "Well, based on your body language, it looks like you're gonna say no," and he's like, "Well, yeah," and
Yeah, but
then
that would be in the trader's castle. Like, I think you're a traitor. You crossed your legs.
I know. That was very good. I mean, I could tell too, just as a viewer, you could be like,
Mhm.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
really not into her. And Also, another person who's getting convinced on decision day, which I mean, I feel like in this conversation, like Rhonda was just wanting to like work on things, and Pat was more just like, I'm done with working on things. But she was able to convince him, and they do leave together. But as we hear from the reunion, that they are no longer together. They were married for 9 months though, so they did make it a period of time. But we hear about the Europe trip Pat went on alone for a month, and then he came back and everything was great up until Rhonda saw him listening to a meditation about anger, and then she asked him about it, and he said he's upset, and that they hadn't had sex since he had gone back, and then he asked for a divorce shortly after that. So Rhonda just wasn't the one for him, but it was nice to see that they actually did last at least some time after the show. It wasn't just days like some of the other couples. But it
I
seemed
couldn't
like they
believe
just
that.
weren't
I
totally.
was shocked that they stayed together for as long as they did. That was absolutely shocking to me. That I was like, there is no, they're going to be one of those couple like the other two that broke up like days after. The fact that they were together for 9 months is insane after this because they couldn't. It felt like they couldn't stand each other.
No. But maybe, I mean, well, hearing Verona saying like, oh, she just wanted to give it a shot, like outside of the cameras, and like she wanted to try and see if it would be different or whatever. And so I think maybe outside of like the pressures of like all the conversations they had to have and
Mhm.
places they were going and all of that. And also, Rhonda had a very emotional experience having her stepdad pass away while she was filming.
Mhm.
So I think maybe she just needed to be like in a better headspace for her own self too, and like maybe that helped them in terms of their relationship. But I don't know.
And I also wonder if maybe some of Pat talking about himself was him feeling like, I need to talk about myself for the show. Like, I need the audience to know who I am and hear these. I want the audience to hear these stories about me. So I wonder if maybe some of that was that, and that maybe when they're not filming and he doesn't have that pressure, that he's more willing to let things be more about her.
Yeah. And Rhonda also said that she thought she could have given Pat a little more grace with their breakup and everything with that.
Yeah.
And that also that he thought that he was making more of an effort and she wasn't as much. So I think, I don't know, just in terms of their relationship, it's good that they, they got a divorce now, but at least that they know it was not meant to be.
Yeah, for sure.
So another couple, unfortunately, we have another breakup, but Megan and Derek, they seem to be in the beginning, like honestly, like I wasn't so sure. Like it seemed like Megan was having some like or just not totally invested in some ways, or just they were always arguing and they were able to work together and get to a place where they weren't arguing as much. And also, a big thing that happened to them throughout the season was that they did get pregnant. So having kids was a big issue for both of them. Derek wanted three. Megan wasn't so sure because they were already 38 while this was filming. So being 38 as a woman and getting pregnant is sometimes more complicated. So I think that her getting pregnant was actually a good thing for them in the show, with them like having that knowledge and knowing that they could plan a family, have family together, and all of that. So they did say yes on decision day. But what were your thoughts on them as a couple overall?
Yeah, I mean, they started off shaky for sure, and having those arguments. Like I remember at the end of the first batch of episodes, they were the couple that was in the worst place,
Yeah.
and then very quickly they did start to get better and communicate better as a couple and be more on the same page. And you saw them have a lot of fun together, especially after they found out that they were pregnant. And so then by the time that they got to decision day, I was like, okay, I think they're maybe the strongest couple right now. Like it was kind of wild how we all at the first four episodes dropped and we're like, oh my god, these two, and then by the decision day it was like, yeah, of course they're going to stay together. So yeah, I really when they were having fun, I really liked their dynamic.
Yeah, I agree. I I thought that they would have been a good couple together, but as we hear in the reunion that Megan had a miscarriage and they are no longer together. So that was sad to hear. And Derek actually broke up with her over the phone and then moved out a week later. So, what were your thoughts on that? And do you think that they would have stayed together had, or on decision day, you think they would have said yes had Megan not been pregnant?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to know because I think so much would have been different. Like, I think a lot of them kind of moving past their previous issues
Mhm.
was based on the fact that they did get pregnant, and then so much of their issues were baby related, and so it was like, okay, well, now we don't have a choice. Like, now, we're in this together, and that brought them together, and they had now so much more of a purpose to stay together and to make this work than they did before. And so then it seemed like they very quickly just kind of got over all that and were having so much fun together and in such a good place, and they're pulling pranks on all the other couples and everything, and they seem to be so good. And then I guess just, going through a miscarriage is such a traumatic experience, and I think that it can either bring you closer together or tear you apart, and in this case, it seemed like once that happened, I don't know exactly what their issues were, they didn't get into that, but it seemed like whatever it was, it tore them apart, and then I don't love that Derek broke up with her over the phone, of course, that's pretty crappy for a marriage, not
Mhm.
just this isn't a relationship, this is an engagement, this is a marriage,
Yeah.
and so that's not great, and to then just kinda move out a week later, it seemed like they really didn't, like, try to make it work. It was just kinda like, "Okay, it's over."
Yeah. No, it did seem kind of abrupt with that ending, but I think that was for the best, obviously, now, like, looking back on it, and also with Derek also saying that he didn't think that they were happy and that said that the relationship would not have worked regardless of them having a baby or not, so I think that there were issues they were just trying to not think about when they had gotten pregnant just to, like, try to get through it to then have a family together, but then having that miscarriage then really put it into perspective that they weren't meant to be together.
Mhm.
And also it's good to see now that they moved on. Derek has now had a girlfriend for 7 months, and Megan is also out there dating. But I hope that they both have the families they want, just not with each other.
Yeah, I mean, clearly this was not meant to be. I agree. I think that he could have handled it a lot better from what it sounds like, especially given the extent of their relationship and everything they had gone through and she had gone through, of course. But if they're not meant to be, I guess it's better to, get it over with quicker and move on than to try to make it work when you know deep down it's never going to work.
Yeah, for sure, and they were fun. I like them as a couple though, because they I love, as you're saying, the pranks and everything,
Yeah.
so hopefully they still keep up with the pranks just with their other relationships.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that wraps us up for talking about all these couples. Any Unless you have anything else to add about anyone we
No,
might
I
have
just thought it
missed?
was crazy that we had 5 yeses on decision day and then 5 breakups after that by the reunion. That was wild. That was a roller coaster to watch, like, all back to back in a span of 2 hours to just see all these yeses, all these happy endings, and then all of a sudden, "Oh, no, all everything you just saw was fake." Like, everything you just saw, forget that, and yeah, it was a wild viewing experience,
Oh, for
but
sure.
great season.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I definitely will be watching more Married at First Sight. And speaking of that, we did get a preview for next season, and they're teasing that there's a familiar face that's coming, and I'm not sure. I feel like maybe it could be someone from Bachelor Nation. Like I was thinking maybe Peter, but I don't really know. That was my first guess based on the size or like his hair color and whoever could be, but there are also plenty of other people it could be. So who do you think that it could be?
So I was thinking more in the realm of it could be somebody who's been on Married at First Sight before. However, the way they said it, like he's done shows before. I don't even remember if they said he or maybe it was more ambiguous whether it was a man or a woman.
Uh-huh.
But is that like the person has done shows plural before. So then I'm thinking maybe it's somebody from Love is Blind because it's the same production company that does both shows. So I think that would be it would make a lot of sense for it to be somebody who already is with the Kinetic uh, family of shows. And then maybe somebody who was on Perfect Match after that. Like, that would fit the bill of somebody who's done multiple shows before. So, it could be somebody from like an earlier season of Love is Blind, somebody like a Micah or, somebody in that realm who was on kind of like a while ago and, has done multiple shows, but their Netflix contract has expired by this point type of thing. So I don't know. That's just kind of my thought, but absolutely no clue.
Yeah, I was trying to like listen to the voices and think of anyone I could think of, but I don't know. That's an interesting point that it could be someone.
Somebody said that like one of the screenshots that I saw circulating online, it looks like Jalen in bed, so it could
Yeah.
be Jalen again. But I don't think that's true because apparently like Jalen and Josh just broke up like a few months ago. So like that, I don't think timing wise works out.
Yeah, no, that's funny because I did think it looked like Jalen also,
Yeah, no,
but then I
that's
was like,
very
"Oh,
much like
it can't."
circulating, but I don't think that that can possibly be true unless they
Yeah.
literally like either just filmed it or are currently filming it or haven't
Mhm.
filmed it yet, like or something like it.
Yeah.
But like clearly they have at least started filming. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I
Micah is in a relationship though.
Jalen
So
is.
no, Micah is,
Oh, Micah is okay. So it's
from
not
Love Is
Micah.
Blind.
Micah was just an example of
Yeah.
somebody who like in that realm of like an earlier Love Is Blind person.
Yeah, I'm like, maybe Jessica, but she said she wouldn't go on reality TV again.
Mm.
So, I don't know.
I don't know. We will find out soon. But there's also a few changes, rumored changes to the show that I saw just the other day by a reliable Married at First Sight fan account that said a few things that are rumored to changes to be made now that they're actually filming the show for Peacock rather than this season, which was filmed for Lifetime and moved to Peacock. Apparently, they are no longer legal marriages, which is what they do in other countries' versions of the shows, that they are not legal marriages. They're just kind of trial marriages, if you will, similar to like an ultimatum type thing.
Okay.
Honeymoons in separate locations. So the couples won't all be having their honeymoons together. They'll all be going to different locations. I don't love that because I think I like the fact that I like seeing the couples interact with each other. No confessional interviews, which
Huh.
is very weird. I don't exactly know how that's going to work out. And
Yeah.
then the other way is just different field producers, which obviously we don't know who they were now, so it doesn't make a difference, but could just make the show feel different. Like it could have a different, very different feel to it than we're used to. So,
Wow.
you know, it could be very interesting. The international versions of Married at First Sight, because they're not legal marriages, are wild. Like there's a lot of like couple swapping and things like that that happen that you don't get in a legal marriage. So it could make for more mess, which I am all for if that is the case.
Yeah, no, that would be exciting to see that. So we'll have to wait and see when that comes out. But for now, that's it for season 19. So thanks so much for listening, everyone. And be sure to subscribe on YouTube, on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and follow us on Let's Chat Reality on all social media. And we'll chat with y'all again shortly. Thanks so much for listening.
Bye, everyone.